Hi, I'm Ann V. Brady, and I will be reading an excerpt from my book, A New Beginning, the story of my adoption, life, and service. One day I was taking Eric to kindergarten up the hill from where we live. I walked out the door and found Egon lying dead in our driveway. We were stunned, and Eric was very upset. I told Eric that we would have a burial for Egon later in the day. We thought someone ran over Egon. We put Egon in a box and buried him in the backyard. Unfortunately, Major L was being transferred to William Beaumont Army Medical Center, El Paso, Texas. He was going to be the new lab director. I was glad for him because it meant a promotion for him. I was sad to see him go because I liked him and enjoyed working with him. Before Major L left, a new director of clinical investigations arrived. Colonel K. Kaiser. I asked him one time if he was related to the big band leader Kay Kaiser. He said he was fourth or fifth cousin to him. Colonel Kaiser would come in early to beat Major L into work because Major L made extremely strong coffee. Where most people put in one or two scoops of coffee into the coffee maker, Major L would put 4 or 5 scoops of coffee. The coffee was so strong that your spoon would stand straight up. Colonel Kaiser would pour half a cup of coffee into his mug and half a cup of hot water into his mug. If he didn't, he couldn't drink his coffee. I bought several Hawaiian themed books for Eric, one of which was a book on the history of Hawaii. In this book, the author talked about poi. I read that Polynesians would feed poi to their babies and they would grow tall and strong. One of my coworkers had some poi and I asked her what it tasted like. She let me take a taste. It was very bitter tasting. I asked how they could enjoy eating poi as much as they did because it was bitter. She said that they mixed the poi with other foods and didn't eat poi by itself. Ed's co-workers held a baby shower for me at a steakhouse. The food there was always excellent. My favorite dish there was portobello mushrooms stuffed with crab meat. I have always loved seafood. I received a lot of great baby gifts. Below are pictures of me at the restaurant holding up some jumper suits and a little seat that you could wind up and it would move the baby back and forth and swing him to sleep. While I was pregnant, we had to take CTT. One of the tests was donning MOP gear, mission oriented protective posture gear, and gas masks within a time limit. When taking the test, I started to put on the MOP gear, but was told I couldn't put it on. I was told it could harm the fetus if I got too hot. So I had to describe how I would don the MOP gear and gas mask in the correct order. When APFT came around, I couldn't take the test as I was about 7 months pregnant. I looked like I swallowed a basketball, and below is a picture of me looking like I swallowed a basketball. I'm in a blue bathing suit, bikini top with shorts, and I'm sitting in the backyard. And I'm 7 months pregnant. So I took the height and weight of soldiers taking the test. It was hard to do at times, especially considering I was 5 foot 5.5 inches, and some of the soldiers were between 6 foot 10 inches and 7 inches tall, 7 feet tall. I had to stand on my toes to measure them. When I got near my due date, I went into labor. The contractions were really close, but when we arrived at the hospital and I lay down, the contractions would stop. One day I was in the bathroom getting ready for work when my water broke. Ed took Eric over to our next door neighbor and asked a grandmother to watch her while we went to the hospital. At the hospital, I was in the pre-delivery room when the nurses monitored me. After several hours, I could feel the baby coming and told Ed to tell the nurse. She told him that I wasn't dilated enough to deliver the baby yet. When she came in, she freaked out. She ran from the room, calling for help to take me to the delivery room. Shortly after I was taken to the delivery room, Michael was born. The doctors were worried about my health after the delivery. There was some blood, and they had to put my uterus back in. Once back in my hospital room, I improved fast. I couldn't wait to hold my son. Mike was born August 8th. I was in a hospital for 3 days. There's a picture of me holding Mike, and then there's a picture of Mike in his little bed at the nursery. I was shocked one day when I heard a young doctor tell a new mother that she had to breastfeed her newborn every hour. It was my understanding that it takes at least 2 hours for the breast to refill with milk. I also wondered when the new mother was to sleep or rest if she was constantly feeding her child. I breastfed and fed formula to Mike. He was a very hungry baby. I was glad to get home from the hospital. One morning in the bathroom, I had a discharge. I wrapped it up in toilet paper and put it in a sandwich bag. Excuse me. I didn't know what it was, and it upset me. Ed got our neighbor to watch Eric while we went to the hospital. We took Mike because Ed was worried I'd have to stay in the hospital. If I did, he wanted to admit Mike too, so he would only have one child to look after. We showed the doctor what was in the bag. He explained that it was the amniotic sac. The doctor assured us everything was fine and I could go home. The doctor also told us that he was worried that if I got pregnant again, I could die in childbirth. At work, I started working on growing tumors to find a way to treat them. Our captain put me in for an award. He recommended me for an Army Achievement Medal. I heard him telling another officer that he was upset because the sergeant major had upgraded his request and awarded me with an Army Commendation Medal. It seems he didn't feel it deserved to be upgraded. I didn't know until then that I was getting a medal. Ed and I looked for a daycare for Michael. We were lucky when we found a daycare for infants on base. It was a communal daycare. It was staffed by volunteer parents. It wasn't expensive, and everyone had to take turns fixing up, maintaining, and cleaning up around the daycare center. The staff was excellent and really cared for the children. Michael and Eric grew fast. Ed and I discussed it, and I decided to go back to church. There was a local Catholic church. I started to take the boys to the local church. When Eric was 6 and Michael was 1, we decided to renew our vows in the Catholic Church and have the boys baptized. I decided to go to confession before we got married, as I hadn't been in a long time. We talked to the parish priest at Our Lady of Good Counsel about having the boys baptized Catholic and getting married in the Catholic Church. Ed had to sign a paper promising that he would raise the boys as Catholic. We had some friends from the KSEP organization, Frank and Nancy, who were coming to Hawaii to visit. And we asked them to stand in as godparents to our sons and to witness our marriage. They agreed. We met them when they came to Hawaii. We were married on July 17th, 1989, by the parish priest. It was a simple ceremony. The priest almost married me to the best man. He said the best man's name first before correcting himself and saying Ed's name. Below is a picture of Frank and Nancy, and they're below a sign that says east and west. The next is a picture of me with Eric, Michael, and Eminem, and the backdrop, the wall is white with some red in it, and I'm sitting in a rocking chair holding Michael. I finally received orders transferring me to Fitzsimmons Army Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado. I was to report in January 1990. We bought some winter clothes for ourselves and the boys. While we loved living in Hawaii, we were ready to leave. We had island fever. Oahu is very small, and we had seen a lot of Oahu. We missed being on the mainland, though we weren't looking forward to the cold. I put in a request to allow us to leave in September so the boys could start school in Colorado. Unfortunately, that was denied. We were sorry to say goodbye to all the coworkers and friends we made. They held a farewell party for me at work, and below was a picture of me and also of me with Eric. Michael isn't there, and I'm in uniform. And that is the end of chapter 9. I hope everybody has a nice weekend, and thank you for listening to me. Please buy my book at Amazon.com. Search for N.V. Brady, and you'll find my books.